Welcome to the EcoParent Podcast Network. I'm Sam, the founder of EcoParent magazine. My partner Alexis and I had zero experience in the publishing industry, no money, and a new baby. But we quit our jobs, leapt into the unknown, and started EcoParent magazine anyway. It was absolutely freaking terrifying. But at the same time, it felt right. Just a few years into the journey, Alexis was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer that later found its way to her brain. It was utter chaos, navigating treatment schedules, caring for a 3-year-old, and trying to run a fledgling business, not to mention the general emotional havoc. Alexis didn't make it, but the rest of us did, and I've spent the years since raising a wonderful son and building EcoParent into North America's top print magazine for conscientious families. Even 10 years in, we're still a very small crew. If you send an email, it's probably me that will answer you. And this podcast network is a monumental step for us, another leap into the unknown. But like before, it just feels right. And I know that Alexis would agree that the podcasting team I've assembled here is an incredible group of people whose only goal is to inspire the best in you. Okay, I'm going to shut up now and let you listen to the podcast. Thank you so much for stopping by. You're the reason we do what we do.
This is Raising Greener Teens, and I am your host, Manda Ofox Gillespie. On today's episode, we look at teenage acne. Caralyn Hale, registered holistic nutritionist and holistic acne coach, joins us today to guide us through this conversation. How to achieve healthy skin, stop breakouts, but also to use our skin as an indicator to help us get to better overall health. There is a lot in today's episode, everything from figuring out how to recover from post-pill acne, to food triggers, to getting more nutrient-dense food in your diet, to what kinds of products to use or not use on the skin. We cover a lot on today's show, and I hope your teenager will also be interested in listening in. But if not, no worries, because at the end of this episode, my teenager will teen-splain it in a short, simplified few minutes. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much, Caralyn, for joining us today. I'm hoping you can start by just telling us a little bit more about yourself and how you got into skincare, but most especially why you've decided that you'd like to deal and help others with their acne.
Yeah, so like many other holistic practitioners, I'm a registered holistic nutrition practitioner. And like many practitioners, I've had my own experience struggling with my health and specifically my skin health. I feel like I've been experiencing acne really since my young teenage years, so over 15 years now, and having gone through really everything the conventional realm would offer me. I've done antibiotics, I've done birth control pill, I've done really harsh skincare, I've even done a round of Accutane. So I really felt like I had done and exhausted all of my options, or I just knew that there was something deeper going on. I think my dermatologist at the time was like, you just need another round of Accutane. And I was like, you know what? Like, this just isn't feeling right for me. And so, yeah, that's when I just really dove into the holistic space and really wanted to heal my hormones. I came off of the birth control pill, and that was really the start of such an amazing journey, not only for my skin health, but also my overall health as well, looking at my nutrition, lifestyle, skincare, and really tackling acne holistically by looking at all of those things. And that's what's led me here, because I really want to share all of the information with other women, especially who are struggling with their skin, and just kind of let them know that there are so many options out there to support your skin and really just help them make empowered decisions for their own health.
So where do you start? Where would you recommend that, in particular, a teenager who is probably, if they're dealing with acne and breakouts, feeling a lot of urgency around the situation? Where do you begin the conversation?
Yeah, I think first recognizing that and kind of really understanding this right from the get-go, that acne is not your fault. And especially at that age, acne can be so emotional because it is such a hard age to really feel insecure and self conscious. But just know that it's not your fault and things are going to get better for you. They will. Getting started, really just looking at like your skincare is like a really, I think, good way to kind of like tip your toe in. Everyone loves a good skincare routine, especially I feel like young females are like really into skincare these days. So a lot of times we've been kind of taught that you need to kind of like attack acne and you need to kind of like be super harsh. But I would just like to kind of like debunk that myth right away. When you are dealing with active acne breakouts, it's really, really important to be gentle on your skin. You want to be using hydrating products and you really want to be focused on repairing the skin barrier. That's really the utmost important because when your skin feels, when the skin barrier feels supported, it's less likely for irritation and breakouts to occur. So that's kind of step one. Skincare, I feel like, is such a good foundation to start with at a young age. And then, of course, kind of like lifestyle and nutrition. And from a young age, I just feel like starting super simple. So, not getting too extreme with any type of food or diets or anything, but just kind of thinking about what can I be adding in to my diet and my nutrition to really support my skin. Things like healthy fats, things like fiber. There's so many good things that we can be adding in, leafy greens, adequate protein, and all of that. And then from a lifestyle perspective, I think we definitely underestimate the power of quality sleep. And I think for young adults, especially young teens, definitely something that I feel like is probably maybe not on the top of your priority. But if you are struggling with your skin, then getting a quality night's rest is really, really great.
It's interesting how almost every practitioner I've had on talks about sleep and just how important sleep is for all these different aspects, which is not something I would have ever associated with acne. I want to start, though, by going a little bit deeper into the first bit, the skincare routine, because you talk about this word hydration. And I feel like for my own self, who I did struggle with acne when I was a teenager, and I remember all the time people would say to me, well, just make sure you have no oil. Make sure you're not using anything with oil ever on your face. And I was significantly into my adult life before I started realizing that that just didn't seem like it could possibly make sense. And I started actually using really good pure oils on my skin. And it very quickly made a huge difference. And so I'm wondering, what does that mean? What is a skincare routine? And when you say hydration, um, should people be avoiding oils? And if not, how do you use oil? And
So, when it comes to skincare, and really, like all things in life, it's really important to recognize that what works for one person isn't going to work for everyone. And that's why there is so much controversy and what kind of feels like misinformation, but it's just kind of people loving what works for them. So, really, really important to empower yourself and really make decisions that feel good for your skin. So, speaking of hydration specifically, my favorite ways to really hydrate the skin, especially if you are acne prone, is thinking of facial mists. This is something that doesn't get enough love and it can be a game changer. It's so exciting. I love sharing this tip. So, it can be if you do have within your budget, within your skincare routine, if you are able to purchase a hydrating mist, that's great. You want to look for ingredients like aloe is super hydrating or hyaluronic acid and like peptides to really help keep that hydration in the skin. Maybe you have a clean spray bottle or something or a mist bottle left over from something, make sure it's clean. You can just put in whatever like filtered water you have access to. So preferably not tap water because unfortunately there's a lot of things in our tap water and you can just use that water and you can spray that on your face. And we're really trying to like lock in that moisture. So after you cleanse, spritzing your face, and so using that in between your serums perhaps, and absolutely at a minimum, even if you have a simple skincare routine, make sure you're cleansing, you're using a hydrating facial mist, and then you're locking in that moisture with a good moisturizer. So when you think about the function of a moisturizer, it's basically locking in moisture. That's what it does. But if there isn't any moisture on the skin to begin with, then it doesn't really have anything to lock in. So that's why that facial mist step, you want your skin to be damp when you're applying products, is really, really key and can be such a game changer. You start doing this and you're going to notice a difference. So super simple. I think everyone should get a facial mist. And, if you can't afford to purchase one, you can just use filtered water, which is great.
I love that suggestion. And can we talk about a little bit about products to avoid when you're looking for simple, good cleansers, hydrating mists or toners or moisturizers? Can I use toners? Is toners is that? I've just discovered toners very recently, and I use it kind of like it's hydrating. So I don't know, is a toner meant to be hydrating?
Honestly, even I find this sometimes confusing. A lot of skincare brands will put like toner and mists kind of in the same category. They kind of use them interchangeably. Um, from my experience, I believe that a toner was more used. I want to say like when our like grandmas were using skincare because they were using, let's say, like not a properly pH balanced cleanser. So what a toner would do is it would come in and balance the pH of your skin. So it's not always necessary, I feel like now, because most good cleansers do have a properly pH balance. So if you're struggling with acne, you want to look for a pH balance of 4.5 to 5.5. And a lot of really great skincare companies will list this on their website. They'll list it on their packaging. Don't hesitate to like reach out to a skincare company if they haven't listed something. Like a good skincare company will reply to you and try to get you the information you're looking for. So that's kind of like the toner situation. So now toners are kind of like facial mist, so they can be more hydrating. You just kind of have to look at the ingredients and kind of figure out, okay, is this a pH thing or is it more of like a hydrating extra step? Things to avoid if you are experiencing acne, I would definitely say SLS, which is in kind of like generic shampoos and cleansers and things. And it's really like gives things that like bubbly, like that lather. That can be very drying and irritating and stripping for the skin. So definitely want to avoid SLS as well as anything that's too fragrant. When you are dealing with a lot of breakouts, your skin is more sensitized. So anything that's too scented can be a little bit irritating on the skin. And to kind of circle back to your question about oils, I always encourage people to do what works for them. There are some really great low comedogenic oils out there that oftentimes are like marketed for acne. Things like jojoba oil, squalene oil, rosehip oil. But I will say overall, if you are struggling with your skin and you're not really sure what might be causing your acne breakouts and you are a little bit younger, I would almost recommend kind of steering clear of overly oiled products because there are a small list that are acne safe. But even sometimes someone who is super acne prone, just to kind of be more on the safe side, there are really great hydrating products. And like I said, focusing more on that, getting water into the skin and then locking that in with a really good moisturizer. And if you are really loving oils, my favorite for acne would definitely be a squalene oil. I find that it can be very acne safe.
What about things like that contain alcohol? I notice that a lot of things contain alcohol that seems to be really drying on most people's skins. What do you feel about products with alcohol in it?
You definitely want to be looking for alcohol-free products because, like you said, that can be super drying and irritating for the skin. Now, that's not to say there are a lot of alcohol like variations. So like not all alcohols in products are the same. It really depends on the specific formulation. It really depends on the product overall. So I know that could like be super complicated and maybe not the most easy to kind of go forward with. But yeah, in general, if you can avoid alcohol in your products, that's great. But if it is a well formulated product and certain alcohols can be okay and they are less irritating. So maybe not the most black and white answer, but yeah.
I feel like probably nothing with the skin is actually black and white. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between sensitive skin and acne prone skin? The reason I ask is that I feel like most of my life I just assumed that sensitive skin was acne prone skin. But then I have now a teenage daughter who has just the most beautiful, perfect skin. But like you said, if she even gets into a shower with chlorinated water, or if she uses anything with any amount of fragrance, she'll get like flushed. Her skin will turn really red and often stay that way for a while. So it doesn't seem like it causes acne, but she's clearly having a skin-based reaction. So what's the difference and why sometimes do you have like acne and sometimes just a reaction?
I often see that in my practice as well. And I think it really comes back to your skin barrier. I oftentimes too kind of like to describe it as like someone could be perhaps in your daughter's situation. Maybe she is just having a reaction to like specific things and like maybe she has like a sensitivity to certain things for sure. But I would see most times with women, especially who are experiencing acne and who have been using, let's say, harsh or skincare for a long period of time, that harsh skincare can sensitize the skin. So oftentimes too, like women in their like 20s, I would say, even starting to experience acne, and it can often feel like, oh, this acne kind of popped up out of nowhere. And it's kind of like, well, actually, your skin is really, really strong, and you could have been using products for many years that you might feel are okay, but it can take the skin barrier like sometimes years of using not the right products, maybe that are kind of disrupting the skin barrier. And then once that skin barrier is disrupted, that's when you're prone to like inflammation in the skin. That's when you're prone to breakouts, irritation, all of that. So oftentimes, you can have like just sensitive skin, but that I would almost kind of describe as like a specific reaction to like you said, the chlorine, whereas sensitized skin is more often from poor skincare habits, if that makes sense. Your skin becomes sensitized because you're using too much harsh skincare, because you're popping and picking your skin. Maybe you're using a really harsh, like abrasive scrub, which I rarely recommend for anyone. If you're looking for like an exfoliant, I definitely am more of a chemical exfoliant person. I find these are much more gentle on the skin and provide really great results. Anything that has like that kind of grit to it can like scratch the skin, can be super irritating. Sensitized skin is really more from just not doing the right routine for you, but not to say that you cannot turn this around. Once you get in a good, gentle, hydrating skincare routine, you can really see your skin turn around quite quick. And it's really, really encouraging.
So this gets to the next question, which is what about those kind of more pharmaceutical based topical acne treatments that I feel like are the first thing that your doctor, recommends when someone's starts having acne, benzoyl peroxide and these other kinds of things. What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, it's typically like benzoyl peroxide. A lot of times, like adapalene, which is a type of retinoid, is also prescribed too. And oftentimes, when you are struggling with your skin, depending on the situation, we kind of know that skin conditions are far more than just an external thing, right? Like there's a lot more going on, and that's why it can make acne so multifaceted. So I feel that really you're doing yourself a disservice if you're just kind of doing things externally. I feel it's so, so important to do things holistically in combination with your skincare routine. I love skincare and think it's a huge part of supporting your skin. So, the one thing I'll say about the more like pharmaceuticals is I feel that there is a time and place for them. And not to say that these don't get really great results. I think it's just important to balance what's working for you and really look at things holistically, making sure that your top priority is that skin barrier. Because if you're using more harsh pharmaceuticals and that skin barrier is becoming compromised, that is the issue. So I think as long as you're using your products, I would say responsibly almost, as long as you're really keeping that skin barrier in mind and supported, I think that's the most important.
So let's get to the big question then, which is acne and diet. How important is diet in managing acne?
I would say that when I'm looking at things holistically, it's not like nutrition is the most important thing, because I would say it's not the most important thing, but like with everything, it all has a role to play. So I do think that it is important, but I definitely encourage anyone who is struggling with their skin, especially at a young age, unless you have a specific allergy or sensitivity or intolerance, I really, really, really want to encourage you to enjoy all food. Really look at food holistically, look at food as a balance. I think with a 70-30 approach, I still want you to be able to enjoy all foods, because I myself, struggling with acne, I did the super restrictive dieting. I went like gluten free, dairy free, sugar free. And this can often create quite a negative relationship with food, and it often creates a negative relationship with yourself. You start to doubt yourself because you're doing all of these things for your skin, you're not eating all these fun things, and then you're still breaking out. So what I'll say with nutrition is 70-30, a balanced approach, I find in most cases is great. And not to say, obviously, that 70%, we want to be focusing on nutrient dense foods. My favorite for supporting the skin and acne are things like healthy fats, so avocado, salmon, olive oil, nuts and seeds are really, really great. I also love vitamin A rich foods. So these are things like egg yolks, grass fed organic butter. If you can stomach it, beef liver would be great. No, that's harder to do. Something that I recently started doing, which is a great superfood for acne, is if you have access to more like local farmer or butcher or wherever you get your meat from, sometimes what they'll do is they'll do something, it's sometimes called an ancestral blend, and they'll blend together like ground beef, but they'll also ground in like organ meat. So you get like liver in there, which is a really great superfood, a really great source of vitamin A for acne, which can really, really help support the skin with cellular turnover. Yeah, there's so many great superfoods out there. Definitely loading up your plate with colorful veggies and fruits. Don't be afraid of fruit if you have acne. I feel like that gets talked around so much that you can't have fruit because there's too much sugar. That has not been my experience. I feel like as long as you're balancing everything really well, yeah, eat the foods that you enjoy and try to focus on nutrient density as much as possible.
I like that balanced approach. And when you say 70-30, you're talking about 70% like a whole nutrient rich food. Is that right? And then what's the 30%?
Yeah, exactly. So 70% real whole foods, organic if you can budget it and that works for you. And then 30% is just really whatever works for you. If you want to go out for dinner with your friends, 100% go for it. So that 30% is food that feels good for you. And what that can look like in a day is if you did breakfast and lunch and you really focused on nutrient dense, skin nourishing foods, and then dinner, you want to go and have something that I feel like pizza gets demonized, but it's just a good example. Maybe not the most nutrient dense choice, but that's like your 70-30 for the day.
It sounds like you avoid kind of talking about the foods that might be triggers, but are there foods that people should know can be triggers towards acne? So, if they're eating a bunch of potato chips, or is it not so much that there's particular types of foods or foods that are triggers, as much as if someone is really struggling with acne that perhaps are just not getting enough of the superfoods?
Of course, yes, there are like foods to avoid and such. Definitely a big one I think would be inflammatory oils. So things like vegetable oil, canola oil, things like that are just really inflammatory for anyone. When we are struggling with acne, it's really, really important to lower our inflammation. There are certain foods that there's a ton of research on them that are connected with acne. They increase like certain hormones and markers in the body that contribute to acne. So things like dairy, things like too much sugar, that kind of thing. So like I said, if you're balancing that and doing a balanced approach, then I think you can still enjoy those things, just not like every single meal. And a really great tip that has helped me and I encourage with a lot of my clients is if you are going to choose something, like we'll talk about dairy, for example. If you are going to enjoy dairy because it's so delicious, I really encourage you to try to find local, organic, grass-fed, all of those things. Like the quality of the dairy that you're eating has a really, really huge impact, especially if you feel like your acne might be hormonal in nature. You just don't want to be like, a lot of conventional dairy products have excess hormones and things in them. So you just don't want to be adding more hormones to your already concert of imbalance going on. And there's a lot of great research to show too that A2 dairy is a lot more gentle and a lot more gentle on your digestive system. So A2 dairy is anything that's not cow dairy. So like sheep cheese, goat cheese, you can get goat milk.
So you mentioned hormone and hormonal acne. And so I want to talk a little bit about the relationship between hormones and breakouts, but in particular, if you start getting acne when you're a teenager, isn't it almost by definition hormonal? And or do you really need to be considering for yourself, oh, this seems like it's hormonal versus not? How do you know?
Great question. And we'll just talk a little bit of like male versus female. So if you are a young male and you're experiencing breakouts, oftentimes I find for young males that really getting a solid acne safe skincare routine really, really, really does help because for most times, males, it's that excess sebum, your testosterone is out like rising with this. So that kind of creates that environment for excess sebum. So I find really getting a solid skincare routine, really trying to like support your skin through your diet as well is really, really important as well. So if you are a young woman and you're experiencing acne and you're kind of trying to decide, is this hormonal? Like what's going on for me? I really encourage you to start kind of paying attention. Is your acne kind of flaring up at certain parts of the month? So perhaps just when you're bleeding on your period, perhaps you kind of notice that you break out just kind of mid-cycle. This would be kind of when you're ovulating. Or perhaps your skin is just really angry and inflamed throughout your whole cycle. So just kind of getting in the habit of also tracking your cycle is amazing, so empowering. I really encourage all young women to start doing this. It's such a great tool and such a great kind of like little report card you can kind of check in on every month. And I started doing this about 5 years ago, but I wish someone had told me about it sooner, and I wish I had started doing it from a younger age. And then also too, another great thing that I always ask my clients too is talk to your mom, talk to your sisters. If you have an older sister, great. Talk to the other women in your life if you can, especially from like a hormonal period situation that can kind of help you figure out what might be going on for you. Because oftentimes certain hormonal conditions, if your mom has a hormonal condition, it's not always you're going to have the same one, but oftentimes, these things are similar for like our moms and our daughters and all of that. So, because oftentimes I do see for young women, your acne is very interconnected with your cycle, with your hormones. And if you do have certain underlying hormonal imbalances or conditions, then those are going to play a role in the type of acne that you're experiencing.
So then, if you do see that, which I imagine, as you say, quite a few women will find, is there hope for a holistic solution?
There are absolutely even someone like myself. I have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So this has kind of been a big contributor to why I've been kind of experiencing persistent acne, even after, like I said, I did some pretty more aggressive treatments like Accutane, like birth control, but my acne really seemed to have persisted because it is hormonal in nature. So once I kind of got into the holistic space, I was really able to reverse so many symptoms of PCOS, which is so encouraging. That is definitely possible for a lot of hormonal conditions. There's so much that you can do really through your lifestyle, nutrition, really everything, skincare.
So it sounds to me that if your skin is hormonal, that there not only, it sounds like you're saying, is a holistic treatment possible, perhaps it is the only treatment possible. Why not birth control? And what are the downsides of using birth control? I saw one of the things that you offer on your website, in fact, is help for women who find that coming off birth control, they suddenly develop acne. So let's talk a little bit about this, maybe the myth of birth control as an acne solution.
The biggest weakness or like negative of the pill, it's just not really a long-term solution. It's more of a band-aid solution, and it's just looking to suppress your symptoms. It's really looking to really pause and kind of stall your hormones altogether. And it's doing you a huge disservice because you're not able to really address the root cause, and you're not really able to move forward. You're just kind of putting things on pause. And all of those imbalances that were there before the pill are still there for you to deal with. And not only that, aside from acne, we know that the pill depletes vital nutrients and minerals. We know that it affects like your bone health. Like there's so many things for young women that they need to know. Aside from hormonal health, having your period is a huge part of your vital overall health.
Well, what about other forms of pharmaceutical drugs for acne? I know when I was young, I was prescribed Accutane, which seems like now when I look back, the fact that I ever did that and its long-term effects potentially on your liver and et cetera seem crazy. You're saying that still can be prescribed. Can you talk about other things that might be prescribed that are heavy-duty pharmaceuticals and whether you see any upsides and downsides with those drugs?
Of course. So the one thing I will say to both of us, because I did Accutane as well, is, and if you have done a round of Accutane and you're listening to this and now you're into like more of a holistic space, definitely like don't judge yourself. Don't be hard on yourself, because at that time when you decided to take whatever you did, you were just making the best decision that you could at the time. And the other thing I will say too is no matter what you decide, you just always have to make the best decision for you. So if you have decided that Accutane is the right path for you, that's great. I support you. I'm just here as another alternative, another option that there are so many ways to clear acne that Accutane does not have to feel like your last resort. Because I think that's the reason I took Accutane. I was at such a loss with my skin, and I felt like this was the only option. So I just kind of want to be that voice to encourage you that there are so many options out there. And yeah, the one thing I will say about pharmaceuticals and that type of approach in general, we really want to be coming back to the root cause, because when we're addressing the root cause, that's what's giving us those long-term results. I want to be able to clear acne for you for good. I want you to kind of like go through the steps, support your body so that you know that you're not afraid of acne coming back. Because when you're doing one of these other treatments, again, it's just more like suppressing those symptoms, which can work short term, which can work for a couple years. Everyone's different, but you didn't actually address the root cause. The other thing I will say about Accutane in general is if you're kind of on the fence, even with Accutane, it takes 3 to 6 months to show results. And with that, I will say that a holistic approach, you can start seeing results within 3 to 6 months as well. So it's not like it's a fast, like you take one pill and you're good to go. It takes a while as well. So I just encourage you to do your research, find what kind of feels best for you.
So, what are your thoughts about makeup and acne? And I think for teen girls especially, they want to wear makeup, and maybe they want to wear makeup, especially if they have acne, right? So, can they still wear makeup? What should they be careful for when choosing makeup to help make sure that their makeup is not making things worse?
Yeah, I can speak to this as personal experience. When you are experiencing breakouts in high school, you absolutely want to wear makeup, and absolutely, like, there's no shame in that because getting through high school is just about surviving. You can do it. It won't last forever. This is really encouraging because I feel like now there are so many amazing acne safe makeup brands out there. I talk about a ton of these on my Instagram. So if you want to like follow me, my Instagram is at Caralyn_skin theory. And I'm always sharing my favorite skincare and makeup brands that are completely acne safe. There's so many great products out there. What I would encourage you to look for: acne safe, oil free. I also really like powders, like a mineral powder if you are experiencing acne. Sometimes this can be a little bit lighter than like a foundation, like a more like liquid product. And just really, really important to make sure you're doing a solid skincare routine first. Make sure you're always wearing SPF. Sunscreen is key, you guys. If you are not wearing sunscreen every single day, rain or shine, inside or outside, you're doing your skin a huge disservice, acne or not. But especially if you have acne, it's really, really important to wear sunscreen every single day. So putting that down first, and then, yeah, find a good makeup that you like. But if you are having trouble finding products, reach out to me. This is what I do. I love to help people find products that work for them. At the end of that, just making sure you are, if you do find, especially when you're younger, I find, especially like with teenage acne, you do have a little bit more oily skin at that age. I do find that like a double cleanse at the end of the day is okay for most young teenagers because their skin is more oily. So, what I mean by that, my favorite is to start with like a micellar water, and you just put that on like a cotton pad, and you use that to kind of first take off like your sunscreen and your makeup, and then you would go in with like a gentle cleanser afterwards. No more makeup wipes. Makeup wipes have so many harsh things in them. I do not recommend them. So definitely, there's so many great makeup things out there. Do that. Do what makes you feel confident. Don't be afraid to do what makes you feel your best.
Can you talk a little bit about what having acne does to particularly a young person's sense of self-worth, and whether you have any tips or have experienced inspiring stories of people who've helped kind of improve their mindset while dealing with this really what can be a difficult issue I for many.
Yeah, struggling with acne, especially from a young age, has such a huge impact on your self worth. I've experienced this personally, and really every client that I've supported and worked with that has come to me, the mindset piece is usually the hardest part because, a lot of women, they can clear their skin and they have so much success and progress, but they still feel like that self limiting belief that whether their acne is going to come back, they don't even really see the progress that they've made because they're just kind of stuck in this cycle of feeling like acne is ruling your life. That can maybe be hard to kind of grasp at a younger age because, you only maybe had acne for a little while, but I would encourage you to don't let acne limit you to what you're doing. I wouldn't want to go anywhere. I would cancel plans with friends. I wouldn't want to go to school. And like, I am right there with you. I'm sure this is how a lot of younger people are feeling right now. But really try to find your self worth, find your self identity in something other than your skin because your skin is the least interesting thing about you. I promise. There are so many amazing things about you. And I just want to encourage you to live your life, thrive in your life, regardless of your skin, because your skin is going to get better. Clear skin is possible. I have seen so many women clear their skin with a holistic approach. So know that things are going to get better and just be kind to yourself.
Tell us some of the places where you recommend teens and young adults especially go to learn more. What can parents, if parents are listening, where can they send their kids? And let's start with your website.
Yeah, my website is a great resource. It's caralynhale.com. I have a ton of free content on there. I have a blog with a lot of acne targeted like tips and tricks and all of that. Also, my Instagram is a really great resource. It's at Caralyn_skin theory. And I share a ton of content all related to acne and skin health. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can send me an email or a DM. But there's also so many great books. As a young female, I would highly, highly recommend. One of my favorite books is called The Period Repair Manual. It's by Laura Britton. She's a naturopathic doctor, and it's just such a great resource to really understanding your cycle. And it can often kind of help you figure out what's going on with your skin and all of that. I love that. There's so many great books.
So, Caralyn, any last words of advice or encouragement for parents or the young women and men?
Yeah, I would say as a parent, just encouraging your child to really find their self-identity in other things. Maybe they're really into like a sport or something when you're younger. I think finding confidence in other areas of your life just while you are struggling with something like acne is so, so important. And I really wish that I found something like meditation or yoga or breath work at a younger age, because I often find that when you are struggling with acne, you definitely have like an overactive mind. You definitely tend to be an overthinker. A lot of the women I support often tell this to me. So I think that finding something like breath work or meditation from a younger age would have been amazing for me. So yeah, I always encourage people to kind of dabble in this if they're interested.
And if you could just speak, directly to the teens, do you have like a last mantra of hope?
Absolutely. I just want to say like things will totally get better. And honestly, like for me, acne has been my greatest teacher.
I love that. Hi, Zella. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, of course.
I'd like to hear from you first about how much teenagers know about acne and how to reduce it.
Honestly, especially most, teenage girls and boys, honestly don't really know a lot. They don't really think about it much either. It's kind of the fastest way just to get rid of it. For most teenage girls, the fastest thing in their mind is to go on birth control instead of thinking about what's the healthiest solution.
Do you think that acne is still a big deal? I noticed if you go on social media now, there's things like these cute acne cover-ups and stuff like that. I'm wondering if acne has become more normalized.
Most of those cover-ups don't actually work. Those are filters, which you find out the hard way if you buy them. But it's definitely a little bit more normalized, and there's so many people out there that are like being supportive about it, like acne's cute and it's okay to have acne, but every teenager is still going to feel insecure about it.
How much do you think most teenagers know about the relationship between junk food and acne or certain diet triggers and acne?
In general, like teenagers around my age don't really know a lot. They care to a certain point, but they don't really want to substitute any of their favorite foods or not being able to eat sweet things to get rid of acne.
What stood out to you today from this podcast that you'll share with your friends?
I think about the food thing and about how it's okay to eat sweet things and junk food sometimes, and you don't have to cut it out completely, but it's good to make sure you have a balance.
So you say that some of your friends are being encouraged to go on the pill or are seeking out the pill to help deal with their acne. What, after listening to today, are you going to advise those friends?
Well, I already knew a little bit about this before, but now I know a bunch more. I would just kind of let them know that it's not really the best thing to do and probably not very helpful in their case and will just cause a bunch of other issues later down the line.
What would you advise parents who have children who are dealing with acne or to your friends who are dealing with acne to help them get through it?
Just like acne's not who you are. You can be beautiful and still have acne. I know so many people that have really bad acne and they're gorgeous. And as a parent, what you can do is if you notice your kid's getting bad acne, don't point it out in an obvious way. Don't be like, oh, you're having a really bad breakout. Like, oh, we've noticed. You don't need to point it out. We're just going to feel worse about it.
Thank you, Zella. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Raising Greener Teens. I hope you learned something today to both empower and inspire you and your teen. Until next time.
So, if you listen to podcasts or watch YouTube, you've probably heard it 1,000 times before. The plea to subscribe and leave a review or a comment. Well, here we are again. But seriously, the review is especially important to us, as it has a huge impact on our discoverability amongst the zillions of podcasts all competing for your attention. So please consider leaving a review. And heck, we'd really love to hear your feedback. This pilot episode of the EcoParent Podcast Network was made possible with the generous support of Ontario Creates. Thanks for listening.